Что?
В загоне.
Группа реагирования туда. Вишнякову не стрелять, ее ликвидировать.
Вишняков, 2 шага вправо, лезь!
Не стреляй!
Огонь!
Helmed by Egor Abramenko in his feature-length directorial debut, Sputnik is a 2020 Russian sci-fi thriller about a mysterious alien that is brought back to Earth by a cosmonaut, based on his short film, The Passenger. Set in the USSR in the 1980s Cold War era, this homage to Ridley Scott's Alien and spiritual successor to Life revolves around a space mission gone wrong in which 2 Russian cosmonauts come into contact with an alien while returning to Earth. The spacecraft then malfunctions on re-entry and crashes into Kazakhstan, with supposedly only one of the cosmonauts named Konstantin surviving. Taken to an isolated military facility, he is examined by Dr. Tatiana Klimova, a young neuropsychiatrist under review for her controversial approaches, who's been brought in by the shady officer in charge of the mission, Colonel Semiradov. She's not told the real reason for Konstantin's quarantine, but soon finds out that the cosmonaut brought back an extraterrestrial life form inside his body. Her task is essentially to determine how to separate Konstantin and the creature, since they seem to have developed a completely symbiotic relationship, one which has allowed Konstantin to make an impossible recovery from the injuries he received in the crash.
Что с Вишняковым?
Все хорошо. С ним даже лучше, чем было. Это существо выбирается и возвращается без какого-либо вреда для носителя.
Because of the horrific wounds he'd sustained on impact, Kostya is basically on symbiotic life support, and any attempt to remove the creature would result in him flatlining. The relationship has also given him incredible regenerative abilities. On the other hand, as the creature is not acclimated to our atmosphere and is very sensitive to sunlight, Kostya functions as a spacesuit for it to survive in an otherwise hostile world. The origins of the alien creature are left unexplained, but looking further into the movie's title, Sputnik, a Russian word that means satellite or companion, we can piece together some clues. The title is obviously a play on words, and it references 2 things simultaneously: Earth's first artificial satellite, the USSR's Sputnik 1, and the fact that the creature is a companion life form in a symbiotic relationship with its host. Symbiosis is essentially any type of close and long-term biological interaction between 2 different biological organisms, be it mutualistic, commensalistic, or parasitic. The fact that it needs Kostya to function as a spacesuit in our atmosphere would suggest that unless it was originally aquatic in nature, or something that was created in a lab, it's probably most likely that it is indeed a creature from space. While incubating, the adaptive Sputnik hexapod is 30 centimeters in diameter and sits inside his esophagus and stomach. As it fed over time, it appears as though it was able to grow an upper body based on the host it had formed a bond with it notably having shoulders, elbows, wrist joints, and strong hands to help it move. This was then supported by a new set of arms that grew from the abdomen, and a tail that could be used for balance, and as a spring to leap with lethal efficiency and speed. When exiting through his mouth at the same time every night, it exudes a toxin that relaxes his muscles and knocks him out, before it expands to approximately 1.5 meters in length at the beginning, growing to about 3 meters by the end. What I think is interesting is that this is likely the first time its species had come into contact, or at the very least, formed a symbiotic bond with a human. And since its adaptive physiology and development revolved around the physicality and psychology of Kostya, I can only imagine what other symbiotic bonds its kind have initiated across the universe.
Женаты на матери своего ребенка. Но вам тогда уже светила перспектива попасть в новый космический отряд? Герои детей не бросают.
Tatiana confronts Konstantin by telling him that she knows he has a child whom he's abandoned at an orphanage, implying that he's not a national hero, but a coward who does not care about his son, with the purpose of stressing him. Thanks to this, she discovers that the creature is affected by hormone levels, and that one of the videos she'd been shown had been altered, which leads to her discovering a horrifying truth, that Semiradov has been feeding it prisoners. Disgusted and horrified by this, she confronts the colonel, only to be told that the real reason they're all there is to find a way to turn the alien into a weapon that they can control, a la Jurassic World levels of militaristic buffoonery. Semiradov tells her that the Sputnik essentially lives on the hormone cortisol, and that, without it, both it and Konstantin will weaken and probably die. Let's not forget that both cosmonauts were seriously injured after the crash, and if it weren't for Sputnik, Kostya would be a vegetable like his comrade. The only problem is that for it to get the cortisol it needs, the Sputnik induces fear in its victims so that their brains produce the hormone right before it takes their heads off, meaning it essentially feeds on human fear like it. What's fascinating is that when it's not feasting on human bodies, because its consciousness is tied to its host, who has plenty of emotional baggage, it displays an unusual level of emotionality, intelligence, and sensitivity, an idea that originated in Abramenko's short film The Passenger. Kostya also admits that he feels and sees what it does, and also remembers its experiences in great detail, indicating that their nervous systems were in some kind of telepathic synchronization. With The Passenger, it's a weird movie in that we're showing our character, a cosmonaut living in his apartment with this creature, and our protagonist treats him as a pet. He was small, almost adorable, Abramenko said. While in Sputnik, the creature is also a war machine, capable of destroying an armed squad of soldiers like this. At the end of the day, it's only when it senses fear that it strikes. For example, when Tatiana volunteers to engage with it without the glass partition, it is playfully receptive to the toy she gives it. It's not until she loses her footing and begins to be afraid that it strikes. The huge spike in cortisol that the cosmonauts experienced when they temporarily lost control of their spacecraft at the start of the film might have even lured the wandering symbiote towards them, though it would have had to have been relatively nearby to begin with. Using its 8 eyes to stalk its prey and its razor-sharp teeth lining its stomach to consume them, this thing is nightmare fuel, or should I say, fueled by nightmares.
Послушайте меня внимательно. Вы привезли пассажира из космоса. Он внутри вас. Ему скармливают живых людей.
Beginning to care for Konstantin's welfare, she takes him around the facility under the guise of exercise, where he's informed that he has a parasitic creature inside of him that the military wants to weaponize. They agree to evade surveillance and meet later on, where they find the bodies of the people the creature had killed, and the still living but heavily injured cosmonaut who was in the spacecraft with Konstantin. Because he had a tumor in his kidney that resulted in Addison's disease, which suppressed high concentrations of cortisol, the creature essentially could not form a symbiotic bond with him.
Вы чувствуете это существо? А я есть это существо. Просто без моральных принципов. Я все ощущаю, все помню. В мельчайших деталях.
In a shocking revelation, Konstantin admits that he was well aware of his symbiote and the damage it was doing to others, and that he was only complying in the hope of leaving this place and uniting with his son. With the help of a colleague, Tatiana stages an escape and gives him a syringe with metropone and trilostane that will simulate Addison's disease, a rare endocrine disorder characterized by inadequate production of the steroid hormones, reasoning that this would force the creature out, where it would soon die without its host. With Semiradov and his response team hot on their tail, and with Tatiana injured, Konstantin injects himself, releasing the alien, which starts slaughtering the team, saving their lives. But as the authorities, now aware of Semiradov's twisted experiment, circle in, wanting to ensure that he and the symbiote do not harm anybody else, Kostya ultimately shoots himself, killing both he and the alien. The film then ends with Tatiana adopting Konstantin's child, ensuring that Kostya's sacrifice was not in vain. With that being said, I'd love to know what you thought about the film, so please share this in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, come join our regular streams on Twitch, and be part of the public Film Comics Explained Discord server. Links in the About Me and description below. And yeah, if you have any other suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.